Welcome to day 23 of Writing Your Novel in 30 Days Challenge. Today, we're looking at another novel writing device. Um, we're going to dig a little deeper into flashbacks and foreshadowing when creating a novel. Okay, what's a flashback? A flashback um, is where you go back in time, when you go back into the history of, let's say the protagonist had something traumatic happen in their lives and you want to bring it up in the story. Okay, there's a number of ways that you can do that. You can do this by you can do this by through dialogue. You can do it through his memory. You could do it through a number of different ways, but you want to do it in such a way that you transition in and out of it very easily, quickly, okay? Um, so that you know that this is a flashback. There's different ways of doing that. If you're doing a memory, you might want to put it in italics. If you're doing it in conversation, it's a little easier because um, something that happens in the story brings up this memory, and so the character talks it out with somebody else. Okay, so you don't want it to look like you're planting that there. You want it to be a natural progression into the memory, and then a natural progression out of it. um, when using flashbacks in novels, be cautious not to overuse them, as the frequent or lengthy li- excuse me, frequent or lengthy flashbacks can disrupt narrative flow and confuse readers. Ensure that each flashback serves a clear purpose and is relevant to the current story, avoiding unnecessary detours that may distract from the main plot. Pay close attention to transitions in and out of the flashbacks, like I've said, using clear cues so that the readers always know the story shifts between the past and the present. Finally, maintain consistency in voice, tense, and character perspective, and prevent jarring shifts that could pull the readers out of the story. Um, you never want your reader to say, "Oh, this is the narrator telling the story," or whatever. You want to keep it in the right point of view. You want to keep it within that person's um, yeah, you've got to be really careful when using flashbacks, because a lot of times you'll go into somebody else's memory who isn't the POV character, and that'll confuse the reader. So you want to avoid doing that. Keep it in the same point of view all the time. Next. Okay, so next, another thing that um, another device that's well commonly used um, in writing, or in any media, is foreshadowing. In almost every instance, I can see it all the time. Once I learned about this device, I see it all the time in movies, and it's a good idea to look for them in movies. Like, I'll say, "Oh, that's a foreshadowing." But anyway, a foreshadowing is a literary device used by readers to hint or give clues about events that will happen later in the story through subtle suggestions, descriptions, details, or dialogue. The author plants information early that prepares the reader for future plot developments or twists. Effective foreshadowing builds anticipation and suspense, making unfolding narrative feel cohesive and rewarding when later events are revealed or explained. A lot of times what you'll do is, early on before an event, um, if you have to describe, give a um, definition of whatever, so that the characters understand what's going to happen, you might want to have two people talking about such and such, but it's got to relate to this story. Um, um, by weaving the foreshadowing into the story, the readers can create a sense of inevitability, excuse me, and deepen the reader's engagement with the plot. Okay, for instance, when I was writing Soldiers Don't Cry, I mentioned this before, I wasn't comfortable with whatever happened in the end, I didn't know, I mean, you've got two characters. Okay. She's a American patriot, and he's a British officer during the Revolutionary War. Where are they going to go? What is um their issue? I didn't want them to argue about where they were going to live. After it was over. How are they going to get together in a satisfying way that's going to satisfy the readers, going to satisfy the characters? Um, and so I was like wondering, how am I going to do this? How is this going to happen? And what happened was is these characters, I had a prologue, and in that prologue, it gave the foreshadowing, which I didn't plan it that way, but it provided a foreshadowing that I could use as the good reason why um, these characters did what they did the way that they were going to do it. Why he ended up going. I'm not gonna go there. Never mind. But anyway, um, you have to read the book to see how you have to read Soldiers Don't Cry to see how it turned out. But anyway, um, once it was almost like the great novel creator in the sky just kind of dropped it in my lap, said, "Oh, this is how it's going to end," and it's like, "Oh yeah, okay, so we can do that." So sometimes the foreshadowing precipitates um, the um, the event. Some other times you have to put in the foreshadowing like later. Sometimes it's in an edit or whatever to make the story seem plausible. Okay. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this thing about foreshadowing and flashbacks. If you have any questions or comments about this, please feel free to comment. Put a comment down in the comment section. Until next time, bye.